All right, so we're closing in back on the Vic Johnson build. Once again, brought to you by 3 Monkey Solderless, right? Home of the world's best cables for your pedal board, for your audio, for your DC, and also we've got some RCAs now. All solderless, all wire stripping free, great sounding cables. So check us out, 3monkeysolderless.com. All right, so where we last left off was here. So what are we going to do? So today we're going to install the board, right? And so things from here go fairly quickly. I'll say fairly quickly, not quickly, fairly quickly. You always have to kind of take your time and think about what you're doing. So things take a little bit. So before I put the board in, I'm going to put the 100K resistor here on the socket that's used for the cathode follower. So we're going to do that real quick. Going to prep the resistor by cutting a little length off of it. Go from plate to plate like that. All right, there we go. Solder it in. Just easier to do this now than obviously after the board is in, right? And you're starting to wire up all the sockets. So then I kind of fold it over and once again solder it here. Then I'm going to leave this side open for the plate connection. All right, so we're looking pretty good. Now it's time to drop the board down. And to do that, right, first we're going to make sure that we have the wires that we need ready to go and not hidden, right? So we have our choke side right here. So we got that out. We have our bias supply, our high volts, and then the wires that we're going to use for after the rectifier over here, right? So we got the bias here and the rectifier wires here. We have our CAN capacitors here. We have our input to the phase inverter here. We have our shielded lines over here. So we're basically ready. Now we're going to grab the hairy board mess, right, which is this thing here, which looks like it needs a haircut, which it will get. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to make sure that no wires are kind of hidden under the board that I need to get to, right? And make sure that they're coming out on the correct side of the board that I want them to come out on. All right, so I've got, like on this side, I have the grids for the power tubes. I have also the feedback, right, going to the presence control, this purple wire, as well as the wire that's connected to the output jack, right, to bring the feedback into the 100K here. And we have all our grounds, right, where we need them. Correct. Make sure that these are all out. Okay, so we're good. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just kind of lay it in to where it should be and tilt it on its side, and then I'm going to start doing some of the connections under the board, right? So that's going to be the filter can right here, which is going to go to these two 100Ks, right, on either side of this 100K, or excuse me, 10K resistor, right? This side being for the cathode follower, this side being for the first stage, V1 and V2, the first stages. So let's do that. So I'm going to strip, we're going to solder from underneath here into the bottom, right, of the turret that we have the resistor installed on. So I'm going to go ahead and tin the turret, right, and get that all in place. Get that all ready to go, and then I'm going to bring in, there we go. That's a fitting thing to have Strauss on while we're doing this. Every time I hear this, I think of Bugs Bunny. I don't think that's what Johann had in mind when he wrote it. Okay. And Elmer Fudd smacking him in the head with something or another. I don't know. Gotta like Elmer Fudd. All right. So we're going to take the other Or was this the ugly duckling one? I can't remember. But it reminds me of Looney Tunes, right? Okay, that's good. Got our wires here ready to go. Got this wire ready to go. Got this wire ready to go. All right, so now I'm going to just kind of tilt it back over again. And sort of settle it down. Being careful. All right, settle it down a little bit. And then I'm going to lift this side up. And I'm going to feed these wires all through there. So I'm going to use the center big hole for the stuff that's going to attach post rectifier, right? The ground and the anode there. And then I'm going to use the two sides here, right? Two smaller holes for our lines, the high volt lines off the secondary of the power transformer. So I'm going to feed that all through up underneath. And then I'm going to settle it back down again into place, making sure that all the different things that I want to get to, I could still get to. All right, everything's where it needs to be. Got our wire there for the filter capacitor. Okay. Nice. Now I'm going to grab some hardware real quick, if I can find it. All right, and I'm going to get some number 4s. Looking for my hardware. Where is the hardware at? Oh, it's up here. Okay, where are the number 4s? Got them. All right, so we're not going to Loctite these down yet. So that way, if we need to move things around a little bit or adjust something or take the board up, we're not going to have to deal with Loctite, right? So I'm just going to put basically, just get them in there, just to secure the board. You really only would need 2 right now to get them where you want, to get the whole assembly where you want. Kind of live going right here. I'm going to put all of them in for right now. At the same time we're doing this, I'm getting messages on my phone, right? I'm texting right now with my friend Stike from Roeco Customs, who is a really good painter of guitars, right? And he's working on a batch of guitars for Paul Stanley of Kiss, right? A bunch of Icemans, and he's painting them. And he's showing me pictures of the Icemans and stuff. Let me see if I can show you some of them. Wow, this is a big post. But suffice it to say, let me see if I could just pull up this picture for you. So I don't know if you could see that in there, but there's Stike right there holding one of the Icemans, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23 Icemans there. So, if you go see Kiss, and you happen to see an Iceman, and don't be surprised if you do see an Iceman, right? It's one of Stike's. So that's really cool. What am I doing here? Why is this one so long? That's like ridiculous. This is all the stuff that happens while I'm talking. Right? I can't keep it all straight anymore. Okay. I'm gonna message Stike while we're talking and let him know that we're doing this. I'm doing a YouTube vid on this amp build. Just put your pics in the vid. LOL. Alright, so back to work. Back to work, dummies. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is the grounds, right? You get all kinds of extras on the channel here. Right, so we're going to take the cathode ground for the first stage. We're going to kind of bring it back. I'm going to bring it this way, actually, so it's neater. There we go. And then kind of bring it behind everything here. Right. There we go. Then I'm going to grab it, bring it out, and I'm going to strip it. And then we're going to tin it. God. My arm is shot today. Well, this is how life goes. So we're going to put this on. Crimp it down. Then we'll solder this ground on to our bus lead. That looks very nice. Now I'm getting messages from Greg. Everybody knows I'm on a video here. Okay, back to work. All right, so we have our bias ground, which I'm going to put right here, right? So I'm going to strip this one, give myself my little hook, right? Kind of grab onto the cable. And twist it around the bus wire. There we go. Solder it home. Then we'll straighten it up, bring it underneath like that. That's good. The next ground we're going to use is right here. This is for the cathodes, for the cathode follower. So I'm going to go ahead and strip that off. And fold it over a little bit. Get it wrapped around the bus. There we go. Get that in place. Very nice. So, all right, so we got this whole thing going on right here. So now we got Stike. We got my partner Greg, who's back off the road from working with Brad on Aerosmith out in Vegas. And we got Brian Dennis from Little Big Town and Gavin. And we're going to try to arrange some time to go to Harry's Guitar Shop here in Raleigh and check the place out. So we're trying to work this all out. And Stike wanna go check out Harry's guitar shop soon. We should all go and get tacos. So that's going to be a fun day. So we'll all go down to Harry's guitar shop. It's his new shop, I think, is what's going on. Maybe it's not terribly new. Maybe he's had it for a while, but that's a shop here in Raleigh that used to be downtown. That is a staple of the Raleigh sort of music scene. So Stike and Brian and Greg will all go down there and see what's what. Sounds like a lot of fun. So right there I'm soldering on the lead that goes to this filter cap, right? Which is way over, I don't know if you can see it, but it's over on the other side of the chassis. Right? So we'll fold that under. And then I'm going to finish off the joint on this dropping resistor right there. So that's good. Okay, now we can continue. This is for coming off the Jose Master, which would go to the input of the phase inverter, which is this 0.02. So we can basically do that right now. Let's see how I want to do this to make it nice and neatable. I think if we go... I think this is the way we should do it. Right about like that. So I'm going to trim off about this much. Strip our lead. Right? And tin it. You know what? We're going to wait on this one. No, we're not. So I'm going to wrap it around our turret here. Like so. And it's an interesting thing. Maybe a lot of you guys are aware, maybe not, but what a sort of like a hot spot like Raleigh-Durham area is for all kinds of like music talent. It's ridiculous, actually. There are so many guys that work in the business in this area that are really talented, whether they be musicians or techs, road crew, builders. It's really an interesting place, right? We have all kinds of talent running around down here. It's pretty cool. All right, so we're going to start to go, obviously, from this way to that way. So it looks like I'm getting a text that Mike, who is from Fat Sound, which was over here, actually he was in Morrisville, which is right next to Raleigh, is now one of the new owners of Harry's. So that's really cool because Mike was really good. I did not know that. All right, so now we're going to continue working this way, right? So I'm going to kind of layer everything in this direction, right? Because if you start here, then you got all kinds of interference. So if everything you want to wire is over here, start this way and move that way, and then you won't have wires in your way and burning stuff. So we have this capacitor right here, which is part of the tone stack, right? So I'm going to feed it sort of this way, right down along the bottom of the chassis, so to speak. And then we're going to bring it up to the pot right there. Let me just get it a little bit that way. There we go. Let me get my wire strippers. Okay. There we go. I think right there is about good. And we'll reserve this piece for later. My wire strippers were right there the whole time. Okay. And that's going on to the middle lug of the mid pot, as usual. Then I'll kind of clean this all up a little bit. Right? There we go. Now we're going to take the next one, which is going to this other 0.02 as well, and this is going to go up here, right, to this treble pot on the end. We're at the junction of where the bass and the treble sort of have their wire connecting the two. Alright, so I'm going to come in from the same side like that. Like we left that unsoldered, that's why. And then we'll put that in and solder it. So that's really nice right there. There we go. And then we have this that's connected to our treble, which goes to the end lug, the other end lug on the treble pot. So right about there looks right. There we go. Now let's see. I'm going to start pulling these up so I can see what I'm doing a little bit better. We're almost finished with this side of the board. Take a little sip of the PANK DRANK. Check the texts again. See where the whole thing is going on. So Greg's heading back to Vegas to work on Aerosmith in 2 weeks. Do it this Saturday or something. Weeks. They thinking a Friday as per Brian's schedule. All right, so now we have excuse me, the mixer resistors that go to the cathode follower, right, to the input side. So this would be coming off of this potentiometer over here, right? So just trim a tiny bit off of it. Now we have the 0.05 there, right, just tacked in. We didn't fill up the whole through hole, so we still can insert our wire through. All right, and then we'll go ahead and solder that on. Then we'll clean up the lead a little bit. All right, and then we have the other wire which will go to this potentiometer, all right, which is for the normal. All right, need to trim a little bit off of it. Bring it up into the lug, solder that guy home. There we go. Clean that up a tiny bit. There we go. I'm gonna bend that off there. Got the text again. There we go. All right, so scheduling conflicts as usual. All right, so we have this coupling capacitor, right, which is a 0.002, right, which is associated with the gainier channel, and that's its coupling capacitor. So I'm going to also while I'm doing this, I'm going to try to tuck these down. You need a screwdriver for a quick second, just to help kind of make room here, get these down, right? See, this is why I was suggesting we not glue everything down yet with the Loctite. So now it can allow me to kind of wiggle the board around where needed so I can get the wires where I want them. Right, so I can lift this up a little bit. Looks like it's going to need to go a little bit higher than that. So I'm going to just remove all four real quick. Alright, and then we can tuck them under again. There we go. That's what we want. As well as this one to be tucked under. There we go. Alright, now I can go ahead and retighten these back down again. It's really tight in this area. And I wanted those wires to pay down to make room for other wires to go through there as well. There we go. Alright, so this is the 0.02, which will come up to this volume control. I'm going to trim a little bit off of that. Dropped a chunk in the chassis. You gonna grab that? This one is not a top coat tin, so we need to tin it. So I don't know what you'd even call this. This is like, it's not a tutorial. It's kind of like a day in the life of doing this kind of stuff. Right, you're kind of seeing in there. There's a little chunk of something down there I need to grab. So you're seeing, you know, it's raw, unedited, written text messages coming through, making plans to do goofy stuff. A lot of fun. Alright, so now we got this one, which is going to be a pain in the butt, I'm sure, too. I got to bring it down underneath here. Alright, there we go. And then tuck it. Grab my screwdriver. There we go. That one made it under with a little more ease. That looks good there, so I'm going to trim a little bit off of this again. Feed it into the through hole. How are we doing on time? We're about 28 minutes. So maybe we can, for this video, get this side done. All right, and then we'll go on to this side, and then we'll do a tiny bit more shielded cable work, and then we should be done. All right, so let's see how we're doing this. Get all these guys kind of up and out of the way. We can attach yep, that'll work. Go through there and through there. So now we're putting in just going to trim this down a tiny bit. We're going to put in the bias, feed, and ground. So the green is the ground, and I'm grounding it at the capacitors, right? Well, let's do this one first so we don't have something in the way. So this is the bias wind, right? There we go. Make sure that's good and soldered in there. And then we're using the ground and grounding it right at the capacitor's ground point as well. So that's a good ground point. All right, so those are in. All right, okay. Let's see. I'm just thinking about candy. All right, we can feed it from, whether we want to go above it or below it. We can go below it, right? Okay. So let's start with this one. Trim a little lead off. Strip a bunch off, right? And then we can kind of feed it underneath. And then go ahead, right, and get it low. There we go. And crimp it down. There we go. So that's the ground, right, for the rectifier, the negative. There we are. Now we're going to do the same here. With the positive side, right? So I'm going to kind of bring it in from this side. And we're going to wrap it around this turret, making sure that there's no chance of it getting contact with the other, with any other lugs, right? So we're going to bring it right up to the insulation and wind it around. There we go. And trim off a little bit of excess there. Okay. And solder it home. That's on. Okay. Now we're going to want to put the high volts on, right? One on each side, right? One here and one here, right? So we're just going to solder those in place. Forgot to strip enough lead off them to make the wrap. There we go. This one's caught on its solder blob on the end there. There we go. All right, so now I'm going to maybe take a tiny bit more off of this side. All right. Tin the wire down. There we go. And now we'll wrap them around these turrets. All right. Kind of crimping it in place. We want to get it snug on the turret itself. There we go. There we go. We're going to do the same thing over here. In some ways this would have been easier if the diodes weren't on already, but then you got to do the diode work, and then it's really another, you know, sort of pick your poison, right? Which do you prefer having to do? So the wrap is a little easier for me to do afterwards. So there we go, have that on second. So now we have our rectifier supply already all ready to go. We have the two high volts, right? The anode, the ground. I'm going to fix this joint up a tiny bit. Get our joints nice. There we go. So that's ready to go. All right, so the next thing to do, we're at 33. So let's just finish up with the input jacks, right? So what do we have? We have the normal, right? This would be the normal input, right? Which would correspond to this capacitor and the 330. We didn't solder this in place. The 330 mic capacitor right there. So let me go ahead and solder this guy on. There we are. Okay. So that the normal input on the Jose is this one right here, right? The top above the volume control. So that's sort of like your stock normal input. So I'm just going to grab the wire and we're going to bring it down, right? Trim off what I don't need. Strip off the remainder. And I'm going to kind of come up from underneath the jack, right? Into the tab, the lug, the solder lug, and solder that in. And then we can fold that underneath and make it all neat. All right, so now we have the two 68Ks that would be going towards what would be the part of the tube that's associated with the 0.68 and the 0.002, right? So that's what would be considered the bright input on a Marshall, and it also has the stage on it, right, as well. So the way that it works is this input is your high gain input. So the second input is actually your stock. So this wire here is going to go to the output of this volume control that's coming off the plate capacitor of the inputs of the first gain stage, right? And that's going to feed into the 68K, which will go into the second gain stage, or you could just go into the second gain stage directly from the lower jack, or this one that's sort of like on the top, right? So I don't know, it's difficult to explain, but basically this is your normal input for this channel. This one right here would correspond to just what's controlled here, which would be a stock sort of like plexi bright channel, and this jack here would allow for this to be before this, right? So it's called like a three-way mod is what Jose used to call it. 3 entrances, 3 ways. You can make whatever joke you want regarding 3 ways as well. I'm sure that he did. But that sort of works. So I'm doing the same thing again, coming up from below like Jaws. Dun 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 dun. And then soldering it in. Being careful, obviously, not to melt anything that I don't want melted. All right, and then we'll kind of clean that up. Get the lead dress nice. There we go, make sure that we don't have any coupling like that. All right, and then this wire right here, it just goes up to this volume control. All right. There we have it. Solder that guy in. Okay, we'll straighten this wire up a little bit. Looking good. All right, so it looks like we have this entire side of the board finished, right? We still have to, this will be like one of the last things we do, which is the jump channel, or the jump switch, which just basically connects these two inputs together, right? So you run a wire, basically 2 wires, one and one, to go up here, and they'll either be connected or not connected, depending upon the position of the switch. On the Jose, it was a push-pull, but nobody really makes a push-pull potentiometer in a 1 meg variety that I'm a fan of. So I would rather just put the switch alongside a pot that I like. So there you have that. All right, so I think that's good for this video. We're almost 40 minutes in. You've gotten some fun out of it, I hope. I had some fun doing this. So we shall return, and we shall wire up this side of the board, the tube sockets, following real quick. All right, so once again, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.